Welcome. I'm Carl Frederick, and I will be interviewing individuals for Kenosha Voices, an oral history project of the Kenosha County Historical Society in conjunction with Kenosha Community Media. I have worked in newspapers for more than 40 years as an editor and a reporter. 38 and a half of those years were at the Kenosha News. I am also a member of the Kenosha County Historical Society Board. We hope you enjoy these programs. I'm speaking with Bob Lee Sr., former minor league baseball player and former general manager of the Kenosha Twins. Hello, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Carl. Real good.
Okay. How did you become interested in baseball?
I got interested in baseball like so many of us in those days back in the late 40s and early 50s, because we didn't have a whole lot of entertainment other than getting outside, using our imagination, playing baseball, softball, whatever you would call it at that time, and we called them scrub games. You had a neighborhood and some of the other friends of yours lived maybe a block away, and we'd all get together, go over to Columbus School in the playground and have softball games and do that for hours. And that's how I think most of us got interested in playing baseball and having a lot of fun and also being with our friends. And that continued until you get into an older age, and there was not many organized games to play at my age or our age, so to speak.
There was Little League, wasn't there?
Yeah, Little League was not here.
Okay.
Pony League was not around, and there was no high school baseball. So it was pretty much what we would call a scrub game at Lincoln Park, and we would throw overhand, but we didn't throw hard because we didn't have all the necessary equipment that we needed and had no uniforms or no sponsors or no nothing. It was just a good old game between a bunch of good friends.
When was that?
That was back in, I would say, 51, 50, 52 in there. And then Bradford High School, which I attended, they came along, and Andy Smith, a wonderful baseball coach, and he played baseball at Wisconsin. And he was talking to the education departments and saying, we need to have a baseball team and play against Racine and get a good rivalry going with the high schools up there. And out in the county, we called it Salem Central at the time, Westosha, and Wilmot, and a couple North Chicago teams, high school. So lo and behold, they agreed to, in 1954, to start a baseball team at Kenosha Bradford High School. So then they had a tryout, and I had never played an organized game of baseball ever. I was too old for Little League and too old for Pony League. So then when this opportunity came along, it was a blessing, but then again, having not played in any organized games or being a young pitcher, where I started out that career at Columbus School throwing a rubber ball against the wall, and decided that I would like to be a pitcher like Billy Pierce or Whitey Ford or Warren Spahn. That was my dream team pitchers of lefties. So anyway, I went out after all that, throwing against that wall at Columbus School, and tried out for the Bradford's first team, and hardly really not knowing that many of the players that were trying out. And I knew by names there was some pretty good competition that had played Little League and had a little bit of a head start in Pony League. And my good friend at the time, I didn't know him that well, but Bob Hartman, whom we became very, very good friends and a close relationship throughout the years. And lo and behold, I made the Bradford High School team.
Now, Bob Hartman was pitching for an organized team.
Yes, he was. Bob started out his career pitching for the Kenosha Chiefs, and it was a semi-pro baseball team in the Kenosha area who played some very, very stiff competition. In fact, they played the University of Wisconsin exhibition game at Simmons Field, and Bob pitched, and I believe he beat him, and he was like only 14 or 15 years old, so if you can imagine the talent that he had at that age, it was unheard of. I mean, he was really a phenom, so to speak, in my estimation at that time, and also turning out to be a wonderful friend, and him and I ended up pitching together on the Bradford High School, and having a lot of good memories from those times. And then after we graduated, the Scouts came around, and of course Bob was a no-brainer, and when they were scouting me, I kind of thought, wow, is this a dream or what's going on? But it wasn't, and they came to my house, the Scouts, and eventually I settled on the Milwaukee Braves, and Bob
How many teams were there at the time?
Major League team 16.
16.
And I would say
Scouts?
myself, there was at least 10 or 11 teams that contacted me to sign a minor league contract, and you're excited, you're thankful for that chance, and you as a young boy, 11, 12, 13, you thought about, wow, what a great thing to play big league baseball. We all think that.
Now, when you came home after making the team,
Yes.
you told your family, your parents, right?
Well, I was excited. I came running home, and Andy Smith said I had made the team, and so I couldn't wait to tell my parents, and I went to my dad first, and I said, Dad, I got some great news. I made the high school baseball, Bradford High School first baseball team. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, well, they're going to have a baseball team this year, and I was chosen to be on the team. And he says, no, you're not going to play baseball. You're not playing sports. You got to get a job. You know, and he grew up in a tough era, the Depression and all the young men and sons that were born, whether they're on the farm or wherever they were, they went to work. There was no such thing as going out and playing sports in my dad's world. So he said, no, you're not quitting your, I had a paper out of all things. Now, you gotta imagine, I'm a junior in high school, and I'm delivering newspapers for the Kenosha News. So I said, he said, who's gonna do your job? And I said, well, I'll get a substitute, and then I got someone that'll take it for me, and well, I don't think, I don't want you to do that. And so then finally I thought, oh, wait a minute, I got to do something real quick. I went to my mother, explained it to her, who she didn't know if I was a pitcher or an outfielder or what I was, and neither did my dad. I was on my own in that baseball family, non-baseball. But anyhow, Mom talked to Dad, and it all worked out. And I got to play for the first Bradford High School baseball team, and also my junior year. And after that, I signed with the Braves, and Bob signed with the Braves, and we went on our way for our careers.
That's great.
It was a thrill. It really was great memories.
And do you have any? How long did you play after you signed a contract?
Well, I signed in 1955, and I played through 1958, and then I hurt my shoulder, my left shoulder, of course, in spring training in March that year, and I was mostly trying to rehab, and they didn't have the MRIs and the surgeries that they have today, Tommy Johns, things like that. That was never even heard of. It was just heat, exercise, and whatever, muscles, lift some weights, but it never came around. So in 1959, in the spring, that was my last hurrah for minor league and professional baseball, and then I came back to Kenosha.
What were your pitches? What did you throw?
Well, I have to say, I wasn't a big variety of a pitcher. I threw hard. I had a good fastball. That was probably the reason that scouts took a look at me at that time in high school, is I could throw hard, and I was a left-hander, and they thought, okay, we can take this young man and we'll get somebody to help him, and we'll develop him and help him with different things with that fastball. But yeah, much to my surprise, unlike minor league baseball of today, we didn't have a pitching coach on the minor league teams. We didn't have many pitching coaches in spring training. I really only had one coach that rings a bell, and that was a man named Al Monchak at Wellsville, New York, who actually really straightened me out and helped me so much in my career to improve my pitching and harness my control problem, as they called them, or location. But anyway, he was a wonderful man, and so I was on my way with mostly the fastball and trying to throw strikes, and it's not easy to do when that strike zone is a little smaller than when you're at Lincoln Park playing with a bunch of guys. But anyway, that was how that all went.
What were minor league players paid at that time, or signing bonuses?
Well, anywhere from $250 to maybe $800 for AAA. And it varied, of course, the longer you were in the minors, it went up. I think my highest pay was 1958, before I hurt my arm and had a good year in 1957. I got, I believe it was $700 a month. And that was, I thought, wow, that's awesome. But it wasn't enough. You know, we had to pay for our own room and board at home. We didn't have people to stay there like they do today, which is wonderful. We didn't have, we had to pay for our own food when we were at home. So that money that we got every month, every 2 weeks, that check was pretty well spoken for with our rent and eating and groceries and laundry, etc., and some entertainment money, so to speak. So it really didn't go that far, so you couldn't wait for the next 2 weeks to get another check, you know. So to make a living in minor league baseball, even today, it's difficult. In fact, when I did start to be the general manager and president of the Kenosha Twins, and we got into the Midwest League, and we started baseball for real in 1984, our season, and I would get these contracts from the major league club, the Minnesota Twins, and I would look at some of the bonuses that these young men were getting, and $1,000 was a lot, and that's back in 1984, and Bob and I got $4,000 back in 1955.
What did your parents think about a $4,000 bonus, signing bonus?
Well, it's just the way it was. You took it or you left it. That's how it went. You know, a lot of them coming out of high school, they weren't going to go to college, so they said, "Hey, what do we got to lose?" So there were once you got past the top end of the draft, as far as that went, then it was kind of the money dropped big time, and then they would send you mostly to the rookie leagues, some of the newer players that they signed. Then from there they came to Kenosha or Visalia, which was high A, and Kenosha was what you call low A. So from that point on, you hopefully progressed as a Minnesota Twin minor leaguer. You hope that you progressed your talents and your career from there.
Do you have any special moments from your playing days?
I do. I had some good times as far as some of the games. I was fortunate to pitch in a playoff game and won that one, and that was in 1956 in Wellsville, New York, and one of my better games in my short career that I played and pitched in. And my very first win in Corpus Christi, Texas, out of high school, it was a score of 22-3. And I had enough runs, thank God. And then my parents sent me a telegram, and that was quite a thrill. And I had a chance to pitch in a minor league all-star game with the Eau Claire Braves in 1957, and it was a great experience, and plus meeting all these teammates of mine, and coming from Kenosha, and not a lot of money, and my mom and dad, they were not travelers, so for me to go down to Texas and go out to New York and go up northern Wisconsin and Minnesota and South Dakota, North Dakota, spring training in Florida. It was quite an experience for a young man like me at the time, and they brought back good memories. And some of the cities I have still, Eau Claire brings back a lot of fond memories and good memories there, and Wellsville, New York, winning that championship, and then actually the first year, Corpus Christi, Texas, which was called the Big State League. We won the championship there, and I didn't get started until June, but they had a lot of talent there, and they were much older than me. I don't mean to use the word old, but I was 18, and a lot of those ball players that I joined when I went to Corpus were 21, 22 years old and had played a year or two of minor league baseball. So I was the rookie, and it wasn't easy pitching against coming out of high school and pitching against these guys. They were pretty tough to pitch against. So it wasn't that you could go with your fastball like you did in high school and get away with murder. They knew if you couldn't throw the ball, locate it, and throw strikes, you were in trouble, you know. And so that was a wake-up call to learn that professional baseball is a whole new level of talent and caliber of for your future.
Did you have a special catcher like some ball players do today, or?
No, we had in Corpus Christi we had a catcher. His name was Don Leppert. In fact, he was the first catcher that I had in pro ball. And the reason I bring him up, ironically, is that like 31 years later, or 32 years later, Jim Rance, who was the farm director of the Minnesota Twins, and said, "Bob, do you know Don Leppert?" And I thought, well, yeah, I know Don. I said, he was my first catcher in pro ball. He says, well, we're trying to get him to manage the Kenosha Twins, and he loves to fish, and he's not sure he wants to come to Kenosha. He says, could you call him? So I called up Lep. We call him Lep. And I say, Lep, this is Bob Lee, a big left-hander that got you to the big leagues chasing past balls and wild pitches. And he said, hey, how you doing? I said, I'm doing great. And I says, I understand you have an offer to manage the Kenosha Twins. And I said, boy, I would love that, to get together with you again. And I said, we got some great fishing, salmon fishing on Lake Michigan. I've got some good friends that live out near the lakes and Twin Lakes and different lakes out there. And you could go fishing with them during the early morning or early day and then come into the ballpark. And that perked his ears up pretty good. So the next thing I heard, he got back with Jim Rance, and Jim says, you did a good job. He says, boy, that helps. He says, he's going to come to Kenosha and be the manager. And I thought, what a small world. My first catcher in pro ball comes back to manage our first minor league baseball team in Kenosha. So it was quite a happening in my life to team up with them.
How did the Kenosha Twins actually come to be in Kenosha?
Well, that's a short story, really. I was reading the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel at the time, and I happened to see an article on the sports page, and the article said that the Minnesota Twins were going to be pulling out of Wisconsin Rapids, and I thought, wow, geez, where are they going to go? Are they going to stick in the Midwest League, or are they going to move somewhere else to another state, or what? So I looked into that. And then I got to thinking about maybe we could get them to move to Kenosha and play in Simmons Field. Well, I really didn't think that much, because looking at Simmons Field in 1983, it was not a minor league professional baseball diamond by no means. And so I did inquire about the franchise, so to speak, and I called the Midwest League, and they said, well, you'd have to be voted in, and we have certain rules and so forth. And I said, okay. So then I called my friend Roland Heeman, and ironically, he's the one that signed Bob Hartman to me back in 1955. So I talked to Roland, whom I kept in touch with all those years. He was with the White Sox as a general manager at one time. And so I called Roland. I said, Roland, do you know anybody up there in the Minnesota Twins organization you could talk to them about maybe bringing their Wisconsin Rapids franchise, moving to Kenosha and play in the Midwest League? Oh yeah, he said, I know the farm director real well. We're good friends. I said, well, do you think you could talk to him? Yeah, let me try, let me see. So it wasn't long after that, maybe 5 or 6, 7 days later, I get a call and I hear this gruff voice and he says, is this Bob Lee? And I said, yes, it is. He says, this is George Brophy, the farm director of the Minnesota Twins. I understand you're interested in bringing the franchise from Wisconsin Rapids to Kenosha. I said, well, that would be awesome for the city of Kenosha. So he says, well, I'm going to come and see what you got. Well, I picked him up from the hotel room where he was staying on 60th Street. It's gone now. And we went over to Simmons Field and he took one look and I couldn't imagine what he was thinking because it was just an old ballpark with wooden bleachers and an old, where the people on a grandstand, so to speak. So George looked around, he gives me a list. And on the list was the lighting. Home plate had to be moved further away from the backstop so a catcher couldn't just turn around and get a ball bouncing off of a backstop right behind him. They wanted major league type situations for all the players. So we had to do that, and then there was other things, and it came to quite a bit of money in those days. And so I did talk to the mayor, and I did talk to different people that would have the say-so in the end. And so, long story short, they approved some money, and they upgraded and did the things the Minnesota Twins wanted, except that first year we did not have a clubhouse, which made it very difficult. Kids used to come in uniform, players, in 1984, and play the game and then go back home to where they were staying. And we had wonderful fans that took them in. We were very fortunate and didn't charge them nothing, and they took good care of them. And so the pitchers, when they got through after three innings, 4 innings, 5 innings, they would go back to where they were staying in their apartments and houses and take a shower and keep their arms, take care of themselves. So the next year we got a clubhouse, and it worked out real well when it got done, because the first year in 1984, the umpires were in a semi-trailer with electric heaters when the lighting was like slim and none. And it was just, you talk to them standing outside the trailer, and they're up in the front as far as they can get to stay warm. And you know what the weather was like in early April in Kenosha at Simmons Field. So we got behind all that, and there were a lot of obstacles, a lot of time involved, a lot of things that just had to be overcome. But we did it. We did it along with other people. I had some investors, partners, so to speak, that had a lot of business knowledge, had a lot of building knowledge of everything else. And it was a good crew, and we had good chemistry. And the Twins survived, and then in 1985 we won the Midwest League Championship under manager Don Leppert. So it was great. And then the league, we started, we continued, and we stayed in the league for 9 years.
Okay. Now you said that there was a lot of upgrades that needed to be done at Simmons Field. You said there was no clubhouse, the grandstand was in bad shape, the lighting had to be upgraded.
Yes.
There wasn't a fence at the park?
No, it just, they had to build, it was made out of plywood and posts, of course, and dugouts. We had to build in-ground dugouts. There were no dugouts at the time. And a lot of the bleachers were old, and they've been there forever. And so we did get some new bleachers on the third base side, the twin side, so to speak. And we had a few box seats underneath the grandstand, and then that seating was always there. We put some new seating under there with armrests. But on first base, we had to leave that set of bleachers there because we just didn't have that kind of finances to buy that kind of new bleachers to put in.
Okay. You said you won the Midwest League Championship in the second year, 1985, I'm sorry. Who were some of the managers over that course, and did you know any of them personally at the time, or did you become friends with managers or ball players?
Well, they weren't what you would call stick-out major league, ex-major league managers in the league. But I did get to know them. But you know, going back that far and remembering some of those managers, it's a little difficult right now. I mean, I knew them, I talked with them, treated them as good as we could when they came to Kenosha. And as far as managers for Kenosha, we had Don Leppert, we had Ron Gardenhire, we had Steve Little, we had Duffy Dyer, who was actually our second manager and our first manager. I'm sorry, Duffy Dyer was the first manager, and we know Duffy from the Kenosha Kingfish, and then Don Leppert, and so on, and then Gardenhire and Steve Little and Jim. Oh gosh, he was a pinch hitter, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was a wonderful guy too. He played with the Baltimore Orioles as a pinch hitter in the big leagues for quite a few years. Jim Dwyer, a wonderful man. And Joel Leppel was another one. So that was pretty much the managers over the years. And Gardenhire went on to manage the Minnesota Twins and became a manager for the Detroit Tigers at the end of his career. He's retired now, and he was just inducted into the Minnesota Twins Hall of Fame, and a great honor for him. But anyway, yes, I got to know our managers very well, and all wonderful guys to work with, and coaches that came around. Tony Oliva came around to work with the young ball players, the hitters. He would travel to minor league team, and Don Baylor was another one, and Ken Silvestri. He worked with the young pitchers. He would travel around. So all in all, Minnesota did a really good job in having the right personnel to work with their young prospects, and it showed off because in 1987 they won the World Series, and in 1991 they won the World Series again. So not bad for a small market, but they had a lot of talent. They had a lot of talent in the minor leagues and signed some good players with some very good scouts. It had to be.
Okay, who were some of the players who came through Kenosha?
Well, there was quite a few. There was Jarvis Brown from Kenosha. He played for St. Joe's, and then the Twins signed Jarvis. He went on to play in the big leagues, and I saw him in a World Series game in 1991. And he was on third base, and all they needed was a base hit to get that winning run, which would have been Jarvis, but it didn't happen, but they did win the game. But anyhow, Chuck Knobloch, Marty Cordova, those two became Rookies of the Year in the American League. And Paul Abbott, he was a pitcher and did very well. He was the Yankee killer. And some of these guys played in different, not just for the Twins only. They got traded and moved around. They played for 2 or 3 major league teams. Lenny Webster, a catcher, wonderful ball player. And there were just quite a few of them that came through. And Willie Banks, their number 1 draft pick, was there. And of course, it was just a good bunch of Patrick Mahomes' father. I remember watching him pitch a no-hitter in Simmons Field, and it was just a good bunch of people, young athletes. That's some that I can remember offhand. Okay. When I leave here, I'll remember a whole bunch.
Okay, you did become friends with Ron Gardenhire, did you not?
Yes, I did. Ron and I kept in touch over the years, and Don Leppert and Steve Little. Jim Dwyer I would see in spring training over the years, but when he just managed the very last season for the Kenosha Twins, and I had the pleasure of coaching first base that last game that they were in Kenosha, which brought back a lot of memories and a little sadness too to see it end. But Yes, I kept in good touch with them. I really did, yeah.
Who were some of the major league players that you got to know real well, or fairly
Well,
well?
I got to know Don Baylor and oh my gosh, you know, Jim Dwyer, Bob Feller, when they came to Kenosha, Warren Spahn, Bob Euchre, Don Leppert, he went on to pitch a catch in the big leagues, and Gene Klein, Dusty Baker, Don Larson, the pitcher that pitched the only perfect game in Major League history, World Series game, and there was quite a few. There was quite a few, and right now it's tough to go back all that way and remember naming these people. I don't want to forget someone, and those are the ones that come to my mind.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier that Don Leppert was interested in fishing.
Yes.
Were there any others who, for some reason, you saw in Kenosha because of their interest in fishing?
Not really, not really. It was mostly Don, and of course Steve Little did like to fish. He's from Tennessee, but he liked more fishing catfish and hybrid bass down in Tennessee area. But he did go fishing with Joe Byer was the gentleman's name, and Joe was a big baseball fan. So Joe would take him, he would take him out fishing, and he was kind of just a wonderful man that would want to help the managers and entertain them, so to speak, and take his boat and everything and make sure they had a good time while they were here. But a lot of the managers like Gardy, they just enjoyed Kenosha for what Kenosha was, with the lakefront and the nice parks. And you got to remember too, they don't have a lot of time. They're playing 140 games in about 145 days, and that you're on that field 99% of the time. You're at the ballpark at 1:30, 2 o'clock, getting ready, exercises, batting practice. I mean, and you got to take a little break after all that, and then get ready to go out there for the games. So they played a lot of baseball, very few days off. So coming from college or high school was a major change, and they had to that was part of their future, becoming a major leaguer, because as you know, and we all know, they play an awful lot of games and do a lot of traveling, and they're on the road a lot, away from family. And it's not easy. It really isn't. And minor league baseball is not easy. I mean, it's a grind. You know, you travel by bus to almost every city that when you're in low ball, low A or minor league, lower minor leagues. You don't get the luxury to fly like they do sometimes, most of the time in AAA. So it's kind of a tough life to get to the big leagues, and some of them give up on it. They just say, this is not working, I'm not making enough money, I'm going to get on with my life, and they leave the game, and which is only understandable when you see the traveling and riding on a bus, and sleeping on the bus floor and grabbing a seat that you're lucky enough by yourself, and it was rough travel. It was tough life.
Were there any major league players who ever came up to your house to go fishing?
Oh yeah. Don Larson came out there, and Dusty Baker was there, and Hugh came out, and Gene Klein, he just passed away, God bless him, and Duffy Dyer liked to fish, and let's see, who else was out there? I had some of the office personnel from the Brewers, and then I also, 3 years ago, had Josh Hader and Manny, the catcher, Pena, and a couple of other. There were 4 Brewer players that came down and fished in the pond, and really enjoyed themselves. And we didn't talk baseball. We just they fished, and I watched them, and very nice young men. And so it's been a fun time. It's been fun to know these young men and relate old stories. They're interested. Sometimes they can't believe with the travel that we had back in the 50s, and the hotels, and no air conditioning on the bus, and no frills and benefits as far as movies, et cetera, et cetera. you were as low as you could go, and it was tough.
So how did it come about that some of these ball players or managers would come to your pond where you lived and fish? I mean, did you send out flyers to people? Did you tell people that you had a pond? And
No.
know?
I didn't tell anyone I had a pond. I didn't tell none of the players. I didn't have any of them come out there because, in all sincerity, it would have been a free for all, and it was my home and my homestead, so to speak. But when I go to spring training, I always would ask them, "Do you like to fish?" The managers.
Now, how did Dusty Baker come to know that you had
Well,
a pond?
he came that one time on his way to Milwaukee, and Don Larson was there several times, and Duffy, of course, he was here in Kenosha, and him and his wife Lynn would come back and visit every year, and then he managed the kingfish, and so I got to see him some more there. And you came out a couple of times, and these guys are all busy, you know. I'm saying, even like with Dusty, I'm sure he would have loved to come back and fish some more. And but Don Larson, of course, his career was over. But Dusty's managing the Chicago Cubs. Gene Klein is coaching. Yuka's got so much with his baseball on the radio and all. So you don't want to push it. You don't want to overdo it. It's up to them. You know, they know the door is open. And same as the Milwaukee Brewers players. A good friend of mine in the office. He gave me a call and said, "Bob, would you mind if some of the guys came and did some fishing in the pond?" I said, "No." I said, "It'd be great. I'd love to see them." And we didn't talk about baseball then either. And my son from Wichita, Kansas, Greg, he was fortunate enough to be there and got to meet them, and had a wonderful time with them, and it worked out fine for him. But anyway, the last thing I thought they want to do is talk more baseball. So we really didn't. And then even Don Larson, the first couple of times, he loved his fishing, and so we just concentrated on his stories where he fished in his travels and his favorite places, and which were many, and I can't remember them, but he was a good guy. And then he finally would talk about some of the old days of Mickey Mantle and Casey Stengel and so forth and so on. And I also heard a lot of good stories from my good friend Ray Barris, former Kenoshan, is from Kenosha, but he passed away at 98. And Ray had a lot of stories to tell about Babe Ruth, and Ray would come up to my farm, and Ray was a golfer, though. He was not a fisherman. He used to in his younger days. He lived out on Silver Lake, and he fished that a lot. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and I was blessed to meet them all. And again, I'll probably think of more as I'm done with our talk about baseball. But I'm going back a long, long ways, you know, to the 50s and forward. So it's hard to jam all that one into one weak mind.
So the Kenosha twins were here for 9 years.
Yes.
Right? What were the circumstances that they actually left?
Well, the big thing is you're pretty much on a budget, and the bus charges, hauling the players on the road 70 days, hotel bills, and right from the get-go, April and May, it's tough to get people in Simmons Field because of the weather. Now, we did our best, and we did have some warmer days here and there, but it wouldn't take long for that wind to switch around, and it got cold and people left. I mean, I don't think there's very many people want to sit in a ballpark and not enjoy it and be cold while you're watching the game for a long time. And we had some diehard loyal fans. I mean, they were fantastic, that braved the bad weather as far as the cold weather and so forth. And we had a couple of opening days get snowed out, in fact, in early April. And our Puerto Rican players from other countries, they enjoyed it. They thought, wow, this is great. I'm seeing snow for the first time. And they had their fun, but it wasn't fun when you're trying to make your budget and make it go when you lose those crowds. And double headers were useless. I mean, we made them up because the major league teams wanted those 140 games to the best of everyone's ability. So if we didn't play today, we tried 2 tomorrow, which made for a longer day in a cold Simmons Field. So it was June, July, and August where you really had to pour the coals to it, but then you're always in competition with festivals, with different things in town that people can go see. They figure, well, I can always go to a Kenosha Twins game, but I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and fireworks, everything, 4th of July. You're constantly competing, and rightly so. You have no problem with it. So we, with the increase in expenses and travel, et cetera, it got to the point where it was a lot of work, and you couldn't upgrade the stadium because there wasn't enough money there to do it. After the city, rebuilt it and did the best they could, the rest of it was, of course, up to the Kenosha Twins. So that's pretty much how we had an offer for the franchise, talked it over with our board of directors, our investors, and the best decision that we could come up with was, yes, let's just move on with our lives and sell the franchise, and maybe the team can go to another city that will, maybe away from the cold and so forth. And we did everything we could to entertain the people. We had all kinds of people, entertainment here. The Teenage Ninja Turtles, I think they call them. We had Allison Bly, the dynamite lady who blew herself up from a box on second base. And we had the famous chicken, and we had Max Patkin, the clown prince of baseball, Bob Feller and Warren Spahn playing in the old timers games, and you could bat against either one for a donation of $5, I think it was. The money went to the Achievement Center, and we helped a lot of charities by what we called was a park packer or a buyout. For $1,000, we gave them as many tickets as they could sell, and they kept the money after that $1,000. And those charities did make a decent dollar. People had fun from that organization that special day was for, and we tried to have special days for a lot of people, for the Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, for different military, Navy, Army, Vietnam. We honored the military, the sailors down in Great Lakes. We had a day where they could come to the game from the Great Lakes and enjoy a baseball game. So we did a lot of things to try and raise money, just like today's team, the Kingfish, are doing a wonderful job doing that. And it was a pleasure to try that, and we enjoyed doing it.
So what has baseball meant to you these many years?
Well, it taught me a lot. It taught me the ups and downs of life. One thing I told my young pitchers, or any young ball player through the years, is baseball is not about the last. It's the next. It's not the last out, the last game, the last pitch. It's about the next, and life is about the next. Not yesterday and the day before, and it's the moment. And my favorite saying is enjoy the moment. So whatever that moment is right now, whether it's the next pitch after the last, but life has its challenges too. It's not your last setback. It's that next challenge that you may have to correct that last happening that you weren't happy with or was not a good thing to go through. So you just keep the faith and never stop dreaming and go for it and try to improve on your life. Like the old timer said, you can't get to second if you don't get your foot off first base. So there's so many things I learned from the game, dealing with people. The biggest thing, and one of them is chemistry. I looked back at all the winning teams that I was proud to be part of with the Kenosha Twins, my minor league days, little league teams and so forth, which I helped coach years ago after my career. But it's those accomplishments that you think of and pass it along to them. Chemistry, you got to have it, or you're in trouble. There is no I on a baseball team. If you don't have chemistry, it's very difficult to have a winning attitude and a winning team. If you've got that person in there that thinks he is the team, there's no such person. He may be great, a wonderful talent, but it's talent. It comes through all, gets put together, and it creates chemistry where they play together, and it's one supports the other. And chemistry, that's what I learned through baseball, through being a winner, and it's paid off many, many times and passed on to young people.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.